Gaithersburg and Rockville, two of Maryland's top cities and Montgomery County neighbors. They share a border and many of the same goals and challenges. Each jurisdiction touts a population of over 64,000, and they are still growing. The city of Rockville is known as the county seat. Rockville Pike and the Rockville Town Center are anchors for much of the redevelopment taking place. And smart growth is considered the key for plans to resolve challenges surrounding school overcrowding, traffic, and public transportation issues, as well as the growing needs of the city's diverse population. The city of Gaithersburg faces similar issues. Further north, and divided by I-270, Gaithersburg's population explosion didn't happen until the 1970s. Today, it is considered a commuter hub and one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. As Gaithersburg leaders seek to reconcile the old and the new, east and west, the challenge is finding common ground between the successful high-end development, such as the Kentlands and Crown communities on the west side of 270, and the historic charm of Old Town Gaithersburg on the east side, where a strong redevelopment foothold is critical for its success. Not exactly mirror images, but plenty of mutual challenges for the mayors of both cities and the Montgomery County leadership that depends on the health and success of both these two cities. All this and more coming up next on Meet the Mayors. Welcome to Meet the Mayors. I'm Sonia Burke, and we're talking with Gaithersburg Mayor Judd Ashman, Rockville Mayor Bridget Newton, and the long-serving former mayor of Gaithersburg, Sidney Katz, who can now give us some county perspective as he represents both cities on the Montgomery County Council. In the next hour, we'll explore some of the important issues and challenges facing these two cities in the year ahead. But first, I want to start with a question to Councilmember Katz. Last year a mayor, this year a county council member. What are you finding is the difference between the two jobs?
Well, both are very, very interesting, and thank you for having us, Sonia. Both really are. I mean, I tell people, as much as I love being mayor of Gaithersburg, and they always say, once you're a mayor, you're always a mayor, and I know these two people that are with us today are going to agree with that. But it in itself, it's different. I mean, in my district, the 3rd district of Montgomery County, the largest segment of the district itself are municipalities, Rockville and Gaithersburg and the town of Washington Grove. But then we also get into, I mean, it's 200,000 people. You get into the non-incorporated areas of Rockville and Gaithersburg, as well as Leisure World, all of Leisure World. You have parts of Durwood, parts of Ashman Hill, parts of Potomac, parts of North Potomac. So it's really coordinating the differences between the municipalities who are, in many cases, doing the work, and the unincorporated areas where the Montgomery County is doing the work. So we need to make certain that everybody's being treated and that the government is doing the job that they need to be doing for them.
I've got to ask you, are you still paying attention to the Gaithersburg meetings, and do you find yourself watching the Rockville meeting?
I absolutely do pay attention to both municipalities and as well as the non-incorporated areas for the district. And they have there's similar issues and they have different issues. So we try our best to keep up with everything, and I have a great staff that does it as well. Is it
a lot more time consuming than being mayor?
You know, in some ways, I mean, we all found plenty to do when we were involved just strictly in the municipalities. But it is a little bit more time consuming.
Very good. Well, moving on to some of the issues that we wanted to explore today, I wanted to start with an issue that impacts everyone, and that's the importance of getting around or transportation. I wanted to start with you, Mayor Newton. What is the biggest transportation issue facing the city of Rockville right now?
Well, I think it's transit. We are undergoing quite a big discussion on the Rockville Pike Plan, and I think how we go forward, how we encourage more users of transit, riders of the metro, and of whatever comes, the BRT or trolley system, that's where we've got to focus now.
And Rockville Pike runs through the city of Gaithersburg, 355. Tell me what you're doing and how you're addressing the Pike.
Well, right now we have an RFP out to study how a new bus rapid transit system would go through our end of 355, which is called Frederick Avenue in Gaithersburg. So there are some parts where where it narrows and be difficult to put a bus rapid transit line through the median, and so we have a lot to figure out at this point. So we have this RFP out. We're hoping for a consultant to come on board and help us with that question. We also, our big transportation initiative for a lot of years has been to get the Watkins Mill interchange funded, a new I-270 interchange that would help connect the east and west of our city in a new place, a very needed place that will help facilitate traffic and development along North Frederick Avenue.
I want to go back to BRT because I believe you all had a pretty historic meeting not too long ago where you were all talking about BRT. Is it important for the municipalities and the county to work together on this BRT plan?
Absolutely, and that was the reason for the meeting, was to bring all the stakeholders together. What happens in Gaithersburg will affect what happens in Rockville and vice versa, and as well as down towards the White Flint plan, and we all have to work within the parameters of our own districts. We too in Rockville, right in our town center, have a very narrow choke point as well, and so it will be important that we all work together so that it is, whatever comes is successful for all of us.
And Councilmember Katz, where are we on the BRT plan? What is the status of it for residents out there? How far away is it?
Well, that's an extremely good question, especially now that we have a new governor. So I don't know that answer sitting here today. Hopefully we'll know it sooner rather than later. But I think it's also necessary to mention, not only is it a coordination between the municipalities and the county, but 355, which changes names several times from Wisconsin Avenue to Frederick Avenue, depending on where you go through, is a Maryland state highway. So there has to be coordination with the state of Maryland as well. So I know that everyone is working. We all know that we need to have better transportation choices, and we're all working to get there, but it's time consuming in order to get there, and beyond everything else, somebody has to come to the table with money, which right now is a more difficult discussion than it was before.
Well, that leads me to another question. Is the BRT competing for money with the CCT, the Corridor City Transitway, which will run through both cities as well?
You know, I think everything competes with everything. Right now, the Corridor Cities Transitway, and I don't like to use the word competition, but in Montgomery County, there's certainly the Purple Line that also requires funding. And of course, in the state of Maryland, there's the Red Line in the city of Baltimore, or in Baltimore County. And so, you know, we all, which is also needing federal money and all the other resources as well. So we need to coordinate. I don't know whether competition is the right term, but we need to coordinate to make certain that we all are receiving what we need to be receiving, so that we can have a better economic development situation, and that people have a better situation for their daily lives.
Mayor Ashman, can you tell me, are residents looking forward to the CCT? Have you had any opposition in the city?
No. Well, residents are looking forward to the Corridor Cities Transitway, definitely, and have been for a lot of years. And we see it as a vital piece to the future of Gaithersburg. There are little issues here and there in terms of the alignment and how it's going to impact certain neighborhoods in the city. But we're certainly hopeful that MTA can work with us and work with the neighborhoods themselves to mitigate any impacts as much as possible.
And what about you, Mayor Newton? Any opposition from residents in Rockville?
Well, I think there's a big concern in our King Farm community. The new alignment of the CCT is set to go straight down King Farm Boulevard. And what was unknown previously is that they are now considering closing off cross intersections, and that could further divide a community that we really don't want to see happen. So as Judd said, we've got to work with MTA. We've got to get a seat at the table to have that conversation about the alignment and where it goes, where it does the most good. I mean, I think that's where this whole conversation about transit needs to be, is where does the transit do the most good? How do we make the biggest progress towards, as Sidney said, offering the choices and not doing harm to the communities? So
and I just want to jump in. First of MTA is Maryland Transit Authority, who's also involved in this. They're another agency with the state of Maryland. And I do believe that when the Corridor Cities Transitway was being strictly looked at as a rail line, as a light rail line, there was different issues, and today that it's now looked at as a bus rapid transit. I mean, the funding becomes easier if it's bus rapid transit, but also the noise is a lesser of a factor. I mean, not to say that we don't have issues that we're going to have to deal with, but it's changed. The issues have changed somewhat because of the mode that it's going to be.
And do we have any updates? Are there any meetings this spring on the Quarter Cities Transitway?
I have not. I'm sure there will be, but there again, until we know what the governor is going to be suggesting or doing, because it's going to be the funding, the state of Maryland funding is going to be coming through his budget. I don't know exactly when they would be or how they would be.
There will be another meeting on the BRT. We've decided to hold quarterly update sessions with all the stakeholders on the BRT to just keep the conversation going and talk about challenges and opportunities that we're all facing. So we plan to do at least a quarterly meeting on the BRT with everybody.
So there'll be a meeting coming up shortly?
Well, I would say in a couple months, yeah.
Okay. And what else can you do as mayor to address traffic? I assume this is an issue you hear from your constituents about.
All the time.
Well, they could walk to work. That would happen.
And I do sometimes.
Yeah, there you go. You could.
Not today, but yeah.
Oftentimes, the big things we can do as elected officials is to advocate to the levels where it's relevant, where we're talking about bringing about transit, whether it's BRT or Quarter Cities Transitway, or roads with the Watkins Mill interchange or other improvements. We've been in talks with State Highway for many years about different parts of the city, particularly 355. So a lot of it is indirect in advocacy.
And Muddy Branch Seneca Highway is another chokehold in the city of Gaithersburg, correct?
It is. And that's another. That's a particular area where the Quarter Cities Transitway is going to be an interesting challenge.
Very
Definitely,
good.
yeah.
What about the Purple Line? Governor Hogan released his budget last week. Right now, we're told until March he's going to examine it. How important is that for? It doesn't come into the city of Gaithersburg or Rockville, but how important is it for the cities?
It's anything that affects transportation in any way in Maryland, in Montgomery County, and really parts of Maryland. Affect Gaithersburg and affect Rockville and affect the rest of Montgomery County. The part of the traffic that we have today, each and every morning, comes from West Virginia and Hagerstown and Frederick and other areas because so many people work here. I mean, we become a hub for employment, which is a good thing. But so everything that is taking place wherever it is needs to be looked at. I mean, in order for us to be able to solve our transportation problems, it has to be in an intermodal situation. We can't just have one form of transportation solve it. It can't just be all mass transit. It can't be just all roads. It's got to be all of us working together to coordinate it. And candidly, with Governor Hogan, being a business person, I sincerely believe that once he looks at all the facts and realizes what's going on, I'd hope he would change his opinion in some way that we need other modes other than just roads.
And I think I know, I'm going to ask you both two more questions. ICC tolls, do you think they should be lowered?
I guess if it gets more people on the road, I think there's always the question of how do you pay for the road that we've got there. But you know, if it gets more people, if the goal is to encourage use, then you have to look at what's stopping the use.
And what about you, Mayor Ashman?
Well, I happen to agree with that. The city hasn't taken a position on the tolls, but I do agree. Perhaps there's a better level at which there will be increased usage and we can still pay for the roads.
And there's a lot of talk about expanding I-270 North, those lanes, Congressman Delaney. Is that something that you support?
Definitely. Sure, we would support it.
But I would have supported it as well, but I think we also need to look at bus on shoulder, which is an idea that Frederick has been trying to get going, and that may help from people farther north to get down to 495 in the district.
Great.
And on the ICC tolls, my office is working with the state, with their delegates. I know that District 17 and of course other delegates as well are looking at what we can do about the tolls. You know, as a small retailer, you understand if you lower prices that you have to get a better volume in order to make up for it, to pay for those which you just lowered. So it has to be a coordinated effort on that as well.
Excellent. I know we're going to talk about traffic some more in this next hour, but coming up on Meet the Mayors, we'll talk about school overcrowding and later economic development. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Maria Ramirez, and I live in the city of Gaithersburg. My favorite thing is in high schools, and that is the programs like the ESOL and the identity.
Hi, my name is Mary Gallagher. I live in Rockville. And my favorite thing about Rockville is the leash law, which allows you to let your dogs off leash if they can pass an obedience test.
Learn to swim, get in shape, or just have fun with the family all year long at the Gaithersburg Aquatic Center. The Indoor Aquatic Center features a 6-lane, 25-yard main pool perfect for lap and recreational swimming, and a shallow water teach pool where beginners can practice their first strokes. Whether you are a seasoned swimmer or new to the water, the center offers a variety of swim lessons, team training, and water exercise programs to choose from. Other amenities include a 1-meter diving board, poolside birthday parties, and locker rooms. Daily admission and memberships are available. For more information, call 301-258-6345 or visit www.gaithersburgmd.gov.
Because the staff is helpful, they make it fun for me.
When I'm embedding a cooking instructional video into one of my blog posts about my cooking classes, they've been really helpful and friendly, answering my questions and walking me through the steps of putting that video into my blog post.
They're very supportive. It feels like a community. You're doing things for the community.
Create a web presence and share your passion by blogging at mymcmedia.org.
Welcome back to Meet the Mayors. I'm Sonia Burke, and joining us in the studio is County Councilmember Sidney Katz, who's also the former mayor of Gaithersburg, along with Gaithersburg Mayor Judd Ashman and Rockville Mayor Bridget Newton. School overcrowding is an issue that impacts both cities as well as the county, and we know local leaders are trying to get more state dollars for school construction, which has been tough. Councilmember Katz, what can we expect to happen this year on that front, especially now that we have a new governor?
Well, we don't know. Montgomery County certainly has to be working even harder than it's ever worked before, and of course we've been working hard all along to get the funding. With the new governor, we know that we're going to be cut, or at least he's told us that we're going to be cut something for the $17 million as of Friday for the local. They gave an extra amount of money for the local geographic area, and we know that we'll be getting less funding because of that. But there again, the new governor's only been there a couple days, and so we're hoping that things will turn around so that we can get proper funding for what we need. I mean, we have a true concern about the overcrowding in schools.
We have more people moving here all the time. The schools are getting more and more overcrowded. How big of an issue is it in Rockville?
Oh, it's a really big issue. We have an APFS ourselves, which we are discussing. I'm sure you're aware of that. We have our second public hearing coming up. But I think to speak to what Councilmember Katz said, it's a state issue. Montgomery County is the economic engine for the state. We're also a much different county than we were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, with much more diversity, many more people moving here. And so the challenges for our schools are even more than they were. It's not just in overcrowding, it's in meeting the needs of all the different students. So we really do need some help. I hope that the conversation will take a broader reach now and will include other stakeholders. We can't just look to the government for funding. We've got to find other ways to get our schools built and to bring the necessary classroom sizes that we need. And I think that's a conversation I'm hoping the county will be having soon with Mayor Ashman and myself included, because it does directly impact the municipalities.
Can you elaborate on that more with the other stakeholders?
Yeah, you know, developers want to come, property owners want to build. How do we make the county what we want it to be? How do we protect the quality of life in the municipalities, which is Rockville's goal? You know, we are not anti-business, we are not anti-growth, but we want to grow moderately, we want to grow smart, And I'm not talking about smart growth, but I'm talking about smart, and have good development that encourages the quality of life and supports that, what we have now. And we don't want to lose that. But we know that everybody needs to grow at some point. You have to, or you'll die. We don't want to die in Rockville, but we do want our children to have the education that they should have, and we want our families to be able to drive down the street, to take opportunities that are there.
Mayor Ashman, you have, I believe, the most overcrowded elementary school in the county with Rachel Carson, correct?
It may be, on a percentage basis, actually, Summit Hall, which is also in the city, is actually 1 percentage point higher overcrowded than Rachel Carson. But in terms of sheer number, Rachel Carson may be the most overcrowded. If not, it's in the top 2 or 3. It's a big challenge for us. And I would say, if I can just add on to what Bridget said, very well. It's not just about the quality of education and the quality of life. It's about growth, and it's about meeting these challenges of the diversity. In the Gaithersburg cluster, we have schools that are 80% in that area in terms of free and reduced meals, which is a big challenge. Also, a high percentage of ESOL students. It creates all kinds of different challenges in terms of meeting numbers on state mandated tests and all of the above. And so the most basic thing we need is the facilities in which to educate these kids, and so a big legislative priority this year, stated goal of the city of Gaithersburg, is to bring about more school construction funding for the county.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the group that we certainly need to be mentioning is the Board of Education. The way the system is set up, I mean, the Board of Education is a separate entity from the county government, and Montgomery County writes a check to the Board of Education for their needs, but the Board of Education is the one that decides on how they're going to be spending that money. So we obviously have to have our friends from the Board of Education be sitting at that same table to have those same discussions with us.
Is the overcrowding at a school such as Rachel Carson limiting growth? Or do you have to?
It is, because like Rockville, we have an adequate public facilities ordinance, and actually like the county as well. And so what happens is when a school reaches a certain threshold of overcrowding, then we can no longer approve residential development that would feed students into that school. So we have several areas of the city that are currently in moratorium because of school overcrowding. It is, in addition to a quality of life and quality of education issue, it is an economic development issue for Gaithersburg.
And you mentioned the APFO. Does each city's APFO mirror each other's in the counties?
No.
And that's part of the dilemma and part of the discussion. And we're attempting to coordinate. Roger Berliner, who's the head of the Transportation and Environment Committee, T&E. In government, everything has to have initials. And T&E. He is hopefully in the next couple months. He's been a very busy. The committee is very busy, and they haven't been able to coordinate this yet. But in the next couple months, he's going to try to have a forum, really, and invite the municipalities and everyone, all the stakeholders, Board of Education, parents, and anyone that's interested, to the table to have a good discussion about this. But we don't all have, each municipality has its, especially those that have zoning authority, have their own autonomy. And really they don't want to give up their authority, and nor should they give up their authority. But it would certainly be better for all of us if we could coordinate a better, that we could all be closer together for an adequate public facilities ordinance. Having said that, I sincerely believe that the adequate public facilities ordinance that we have in Montgomery County is not adequate. So we need to be getting a better system so that everybody can have a better working situation for all of us.
Why is it not adequate?
Well, so much of it depends on funding, and of course the funding comes from other sources, so you're not always aware of that. Some of it is the programming of an individual school, and so we need to coordinate that with the Board of Education. We need to, if a portable or relocatable or whatever they're calling it now, comes to a site, we don't really have some of those portables are there for a couple of years because they know that the third grade is not going to be the size that it is today for 10 years. But in some cases, there's not a plan what we're doing, on how we're doing our resources, and even if we did have a plan, if you don't have the money to do the resources, what are you going to do then? So it really is, it needs to be a good conversation. And an adequate public facilities ordinance does not just involve schools. I mean, every part of it is extremely important, but it involves transportation, it involves fire and safety and public safety. So, I mean, all of these things need to be on the table. We need to have a good, frank discussion on how we're going to get from A to B so we have a better situation for all of us.
And I think if I could just jump in here, what Sidney's saying is absolutely right. But the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance is a tool. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's just one thing that we've tried to use to help us. And the other point I want to make is that schools are crowded at 100%. That's full, right? So 110, which the city has, 120, which the county has, that means that's that much over full capacity. And I think that's something that people aren't understanding, is when they hear 110, 120, what does that really mean? And I agree with Sidney. I think we need to have a full conversation. My hope is that the county will come to Rockville standard. We do want to be on the same page, but we don't want to go to the worst standard. And no offense, Councilmember, but the county has the weakest standard in the state. There is no other jurisdiction in the state of Maryland that's at 120%. And I think that is where we need to start the conversation, is how do we make Montgomery County what we want it to be in terms of education quality of life, transit, and all of those things. How do we get those funds necessary to do it? Because it does come down to money. It comes down to choices, and we have to figure out how we're going to get there.
And for those who are watching who may not know, I just want to, where does Gaithersburg fit in? Is it 110 as well?
Well, we're 110, but we do have a little leeway under certain circumstances to go to 120. But I would distinguish it from the county, for those of you who are really want to get inside baseball. With Rockville and with Gaithersburg, our standard is on a per school basis. With the county, if you have 90% capacity in one school and you have 120 at a school next, adjacent to it or in the next cluster, they can still approve more students or development to send more students to the 120 with this formula called borrowing capacity. So for those of you who are really interested in getting inside baseball, the county's is even weaker than just 120.
And we call it borrowing, but nobody moves. I mean, and people, become very, very concerned because they want their children, to go to the school in the area that they're living. So it really has become, and candidly, no offense is taken. I believe we need to coordinate and do a better job in what we're doing. And I think that once you have this conversation, everyone can understand how we've gotten where we are and how we can continue. I mean, if the schools are shut down because of the municipalities, for the municipalities, and Montgomery County still allows development to go on around it, so it's not making it any better for the municipality that just shut that school down, but it's still not a better situation. So I think that we, because of the work that the county is attempting to coordinate, I think that there's a possibility that we can have a better situation. But until we have the discussion, who knows where it's going to end up.
And we don't know when that discussion's going to.
Well, hopefully within the next 3 months. I mean, I don't know, and I don't want to give somebody to say, in 90 days we're going to have this conversation. At that point, there's always a new something that pops in, and that is that we're going to get into budgets. So we have to make certain we're doing it.
Excellent. And I know you both, the mayors of Gaithersburg and Rockville, testified at the CIP, the superintendent's CIP, and you even mentioned that some of the Rockville residents go to Gaithersburg schools.
Correct.
In your testimony. So it's something you need to work together upon.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, I hope to touch, you alluded to diversity in the schools. I want to come back to that in a block later. But right now, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we'll discuss economic development in both Rockville and Gaithersburg. How do these cities compete for new businesses and keep the ones they have? Stay with us for that conversation right after this.
Hi, my name is Richard Tolbert. I live at 28 Hawthorne Court in Rockville, Maryland. And one of the things that I like about the city of Rockville is the fact that they redid the fitness center here at the senior center. Enjoy my workouts here. Thank you very much.
My name is Aubrey Olson. I live in Gaithersburg, and my favorite thing about Gaithersburg is the charitable spirit of the city.
Hey, mister! Down here. You illegally passed the stop school bus. I'm placing you in timeout. And this timeout means big fines and possible points on your license. And more importantly, you could have endangered students' lives. That's why, to curb this reckless behavior, school buses are being equipped with video cameras to help kids like me stay safe. So play it smart, play it safe, and respect the bus.
MyMCmedia.org has the spotlight on Montgomery County. Get going with MyMCmedia.org for constantly updated information like neighborhood events, newsmakers, hot topics, arts and entertainment, and much more. It's the one spot for everything Montgomery. Let the MyMC Media Spotlight shine on your day. And while you're here, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and find out what people are talking about right now. MyMCmedia.org, spotlighting your day every day.
Welcome back to Meet the Mayors. I'm Sonia Burke, and the mayors joining us today are Rockville Mayor Bridget Newton, Gaithersburg Mayor Judd Ashman, and Montgomery County Councilmember Sidney Katz, who until recently was the mayor of Gaithersburg. Let's talk about growth. The city of Gaithersburg was recently named one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Where is most of the growth in Gaithersburg, Mayor Ashman?
We have a couple new big communities. One at the former Crown Farm, which is known as Crown, and a number of the apartments and some of a smaller number of the detached residences are open, and so are the restaurants, and so you're seeing a lot of action at downtown Crown. We also have the Watkins Mill Town Center and Parklands neighborhoods, which are a little bit to the west, and definitely leasing and selling like hotcakes over there. We have a couple fairly new apartment complexes, one in Old Town Gaithersburg and one just outside Old Town Gaithersburg near the Hidden Creek development. So we're seeing a lot of growth in Gaithersburg, and I think no matter growth is coming our way, much more growth is coming our way. And we have an interesting opportunity to plan for it and try to shape it in a way that we see is going to be good. I mean, forecasts are just showing that Gaithersburg and Rockville are growing areas.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, do you start to feel a little competitive here? Because I know Rockville is growing as well, and you've got the Rockville Town Center. How when you hear, when they make national news for something like that, how do you compete with your neighboring cities? You share a border to get new businesses, to get new developments, and to keep the ones you have.
Well, it's a friendly competition. To get to Gaithersburg, you have to go through Rockville. So
Unless
we're
you're
happy
coming from the north.
Unless you're coming from the north. But we're happy for Gaithersburg's successes. Rockville is having our successes as well. And our town center came online at the worst possible time economically, 2008, 2009, and that was a shock in everyone's system in this area. And we're coming back from that and coming back strong. We just approved the second phase of the Duval project, which is right across from our movie theaters. KSI, which is now Kettler, will be coming on. We've got growth at Twin Brooks. So Rockville is continuing to grow and be very successful. Our town center, especially with the ice rink in the winter and the productions and movies and whatnot in the summer, I mean, it's really a gathering place.
And you have a hotel opening soon.
And we will have a hotel opening very soon, right, thanks to Choice Hotels.
Excellent. So is it though, is there a strategy as in the elected official for, the mayor of Rockville, how you continue to grow and bring more businesses in? Can you share some of that with us, what you do or how you're touting Rockville so folks will stay in Rockville and maybe not move to a different area, if it's Gaithersburg or Frederick?
Well, Rockville's really lucky. We have our economic development arm is called READY, Rockville Economic Development Inc. They're very good at retention, at bringing businesses in. I think my job is a little bit more of an ambassador. I'm not necessarily out there making the contacts, but actually when I do make a contact, I definitely give a pitch for Rockville. I think it's the best place to be, no offense. But we are, a wonderful place. And so it is my job, it's the council's job to listen to what's out there and if there are concerns, try to allay them and try to see. We definitely want to be the place that people want to be.
And right up the pike is Pike and Rose, the White Flint development. What do you say? How do you, now that you represent both cities, tout the success and health of them?
Well, and there again, it's just like transportation. Whatever affects one area affects all areas. And whether a business is in the city of Rockville, city of Gaithersburg, or in Montgomery County, the family can live in another part of Montgomery County or in another area. So everything does have to, I always talked about the puzzle, and it's the puzzle fitting together. I mean, if Rockville has a new development and Gaithersburg has a new commercial development, and Gaithersburg has a new residential development, then those two can fit together because somebody can live one place and go to another. It really is, there again, it's a coordination. I can tell you that Montgomery County in general, Pike and Rose is not actually in the district that I live in. It's in the 1st district, but it truly is a wonderful area. White Flint, the whole development for White Flint is a plan that came together from a variety of interests. I mean, there's private property owners, obviously, that are involved. It's near Metro. They had many citizens group. And in fact, a person on my staff was the executive director of the Friends of White Flint, Lindsay Hoffman. So I know that it's something that's continued to be worked on. It'll bring a big change for the area. And because of that, we're going to have great economic development because of it. And
we're also seeing the development slowly of the Shady Grove sector plan, which is going to have, I imagine, quite a big impact on both cities as well. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the reasons why the school conversation is so very important, and transit. The Shady Grove sector plan will definitely impact Shady Grove Metro, and as people know right now, if you don't get a seat on the Metro in the morning during rush hour at Shady Grove, it's very, very difficult to get one just the next stop in Rockville Town Center. So I think those are conversations that are just going to have to continue in terms of, yes, we're bringing in development, but how do we provide for that development? How do we provide the transit? How do we provide the educational opportunities? We've got the retail, we've got some of the other restaurants and whatnot coming in thanks to some of the new developments and the redevelopments of town centers, but we've got to look at the big picture too.
And back to the competing developments, if you call them that, how do you compete for the customers? How do you get, do you, and especially when you're waiting for the CCT and BRT, do you explore options like a circulator to get people around?
Absolutely, and Gaithersburg's ahead of us on this, but I'm hoping that Rockville will be having this discussion, well, we will be having it soon on the circulator. I think it would be very beneficial to connect our college, Montgomery College, with our town center, with Rockville Pike, and the neighborhoods, and get people used to using the circulator, taking transit to get to other options. So you could hop on the circulator to get to the Rockville Metro. You could hop on the circulator to go to lunch, leave your car where it is, whether it's at home or parked in a parking garage. I know for the students at Montgomery College, they fight for that parking spot in the morning. They don't want to move their car and not have that spot when they come back. So a circulator would enable them to go out during lunch, go out during a break, and make use of all the opportunities we have.
So is this something that you're talking about now that the city would help launch, or you would want developers to launch it in their communities?
Actually, it's got to be a conversation of all the stakeholders. The city can't do it alone. There's a meeting upcoming that will have the provost of Montgomery College, the head of READY, a representative from Montgomery County Development, all of us talking together. We want to get this done. How do we do it?
What kind of timeline, Mayor?
Well, I'd love to see it. I'm always the eternal optimist, but I'd love to see it in time for the spring, summer, so that people really can make use of it and can really do it. And I know Gaithersburg's ahead of us, but I'm hoping to piggyback on your coattails on some of the discussions and not reinvent the wheel. Rockville had, under Mayor Hoffman, some buses come in that were going to be used as a circulator. I think, unfortunately, that hit right at the worst of the economic time period, as we discussed earlier, and so I want to not reinvent the wheel in Rockville, but let's see if we can't get something going that people can make use of this summer.
Well, if you get it done by spring or summer, you'll probably beat us to the punch. We have talked about it, but it hasn't really advanced. We haven't. It's sort of stalled at the moment. But to your question of what do we do as elected officials to sort of help our businesses, there are a few ways that we go about it. Obviously, we're not marketing department for our businesses, but we do our best. For example, at the moment, our economic development department is talking with the chamber, the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber, to put together a restaurant week for all these new restaurants, and hopefully we'll get some participants in that idea, and it'll come to fruition. Our economic development department is very active in terms of attracting and retaining businesses. We have a grant program that's very robust and has helped us attract and retain. And I'm sure they're doing the same thing that Ready's doing, but although we're doing it in-house, we do have I do want to tout a new economic development website, growgaithersburg.com.
Excellent. Ike's 6-point economic plan, when you heard it, did you think that maybe Gaithersburg's permitting system was going to be a model for the county?
Well, I think all of our systems should be a model for Montgomery County. And I have to tell you, Montgomery County has turned that around fairly fast. I was chatting with somebody just yesterday, and they were saying how impressed they've been over the last several weeks that Montgomery County is so much better at what they're doing. So, and I was jokingly told them, and I said, of course, that's when I got there, but it wasn't. I had nothing to do with that part. But Ike is certainly very, very concerned about it. Montgomery County knew that this was something that needed to be done, that they had heard the concerns, and they're answering the concerns.
And what about you? How important is streamlining development for the city of Rockville?
Absolutely. You know, the governor has said Maryland's open for business. Well, Rockville wants to be open as well, and we are. And I think all of us can make improvements. We're working to do that in the city, and I think that'll be better for everyone. We'll get more development. Our developers will be happier. It's very difficult when you've already worked through the process, and then all of a sudden here come the citizens saying, what about us? We've got to bring the citizens into the beginning of the process and build the best development we can.
Excellent. And another development in the pipeline, Science City, the Bellward Farm, which also will impact both, especially relying on the CCT, correct? Mm-hmm. Do we have an update on that, or?
On the CCT?
Or on the Bellward Farm development?
I do not. I know that they're, again, part of what they're doing, a significant part of what they're doing is that they have to have the Carter City Strangeaway, the CCT, built or beginning to be built. So at this point, until we know what type of money we have and where we will be with the state, I don't know that we have an update on that.
And for those just joining us, the CCT is the Corridor Cities Transit Way, which will run from the Rockville Shady Grove Metro through Gaithersburg. So we're talking about growth and how fast both cities are developing. What is the impact on the services you provide to your residents? Are you hiring more employees? How is that transcending?
Sure. I mean, it is a challenge, but in this budget process, I expect that staff will come to us with a request to hire some more staff, but not significantly more. We run things very efficiently in Gaithersburg, and at this point, we're in very good shape.
And I'll support. Gaithersburg is a model for efficiency. In Rockville, we need more police officers. We answer 78% of the calls for service within the city, freeing the county to go elsewhere where they're very much needed. But we need more officers. Our population almost doubles, if not doubles, during the day because of the courts and all the county activities and whatnot. We need to hire more officers.
We'll talk more about public safety when we come back. Also, it's an election year in both Gaithersburg and Rockville this year. Are the current mayors planning to run? And will Councilmember Katz be endorsing any of the candidates in either race? We'll find out right after this.
My name is Malcolm Jensen. I live in Gaithersburg. My favorite thing about Gaithersburg is this library.
My name is Jim Demma, and I live in the heart of Rockville. And I think that my most favorite thing about Rockville is how convenient everything is.
Hi, my name is Emily Duran, and I live in Gaithersburg. And my favorite part of living in Gaithersburg is the diversity and community.
Learn to swim, get in shape, or just have fun with the family all year long at the Gaithersburg Aquatic Center. The Indoor Aquatic Center features a 6-lane, 25-yard main pool perfect for lap and recreational swimming, and a shallow water teach pool where beginners can practice their first strokes. Whether you are a seasoned swimmer or new to the water, the center offers a variety of swim lessons, team training, and water exercise programs to choose from. Other amenities include a 1-meter diving board, poolside birthday parties, and locker rooms. Daily admission and memberships are available. For more information, call 301-258-6345 or visit www.gaithersburgmd.gov.
Because the staff is helpful, they make it fun for me.
When I'm embedding a cooking instructional video into one of my blog posts about my cooking classes, they've been really helpful and friendly, answering my questions and walking me through the steps of putting that video into my blog post.
They're very supportive. It feels like a community. You're doing things for the community.
Create a web presence and share your passion by blogging at mymcmedia.org.
Welcome back to Meet the Mayors. Joining us is Gaithersburg Mayor Judd Ashman, Rockville Mayor Bridget Newton, and Montgomery County Councilmember Sidney Katz, who is the former mayor of Gaithersburg and who represents both cities now as one of the newest members of the Montgomery County Council. Let's talk about your future. It's an election year in both Gaithersburg and Rockville. Mayor Newton, do you plan to run again for mayor?
Well, it's January, and I still feel that I have a whole year left to serve in the current term, so I am not making any announcements, just doing the job that I was elected to do.
Excellent. What about you, Mayor Ashman?
This has been a really interesting, amazing honor and opportunity, and while I'm not ready to make a formal announcement, I would say I'm leaning toward running again.
And for our viewers, you just were appointed in November,
yes.
So you've only been in the job a couple months?
That's correct.
But you're enjoying it?
I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely learning on the job.
Excellent. And both of you, how do you think Councilmember Katz is doing in his new role?
Well, we were just talking during the break. You know, Sidney is just the Energizer Bunny. He is everywhere. He listens to people. He's done it as mayor. I'm sure he did it as council member, and he's doing it as county council member. And I mean, as a Gaithersburg council member, I'm sure you did it. Yeah. And he's doing it as the county council member. He is the epitome of what we all strive to be. So we're very, very lucky to have him as our representative.
Absolutely. He's a fabulous leader, role model, and mentor, and I feel very lucky to be able to call on him anytime.
Now, after that, I have to ask you, will there be any endorsements in these city elections?
Well, since they're being so very kind, you know, I probably will endorse. I don't know that I mean, I haven't made it. First off, they haven't decided exactly what's going to take place, but I've always been involved in elections, and I don't know a reason why I would not be directly involved or to be helpful as best I can. But Sonia, you might decide to run, and you know, I might want to consider endorsing you as well.
Well, so that's good to know. Yeah.
This is a mutual admiration
society.
Absolutely.
I can tell you, and I mean this sincerely. It's as someone who was a mayor. Both of the people sitting at the table today who are mayors really are doing a great job, and I mean that sincerely. I see them. I've seen them worked with them as mayor, and I work with them as a council member and a county council member, and I'm very impressed with everything that they're doing.
Well, speaking of elections, we've had some issues when it comes to voter turnout, not only in the municipalities, but countywide. There has been talk and a movement. Tacoma Park voted to lower the voting age to allow 16 and 17-year-olds. Hyattsville recently also. I'm wondering, has the youth come to you and asked for that opportunity and right? And do you support it? Would you lower the voting age in Rockville?
Well, we have been approached. I've had a couple meetings with the youth who are sort of spearheading the topic. The council has not addressed it per se. I don't think it will happen. Should it happen, it won't happen for this election. It's just too late in the game to get going on it. You know, I think there are pros and cons. Our youth are very involved, very smart about things, but I think there's some things to talk about if we're going to make that step.
What about Gaithersburg?
I have been approached by a member of the movement as well from outside the city. I haven't heard anything from a constituent, from one of the residents or one of the students living in the city. And the only quasi-formal consideration was when this came up as part of a number of recommendations to the county, and the council at the time looked at it. And there didn't seem to be energy to make a change at this point. Who knows in the future, but I'm not seeing anything imminent.
And what about you?
Well, I think, first of all, it does cause a good discussion. I mean, there are people that believe that we should not be lowering the voting age, and there's people, obviously, that think that's something that we should be considering. Having said that, I also believe it becomes very, very confusing to a person that once if the municipalities decide that they would lower the age, and then they can't vote for President of the United States, then that causes a confusion. I could vote here and I couldn't vote there. And so I think it needs to be a discussion. I do believe that at this point, I personally have not heard that many people that believe that we should be lowering the voting age, though they certainly do support, which I think is now in existence, that if someone who's going to be 18 by the next election, that they can go ahead and register to vote, you know, at the age of 17, so that they, or whatever, so that they can be a registered voter by the time they are 18. But I think it's going to be, the Montgomery County will be going through discussions on it as well.
Excellent. We talked about schools, we talked about traffic, we talked about the upcoming election and growth. We didn't really touch much on public safety, and I know the crime rate in both cities is relatively low. Is there anything with policing that you want to talk about?
Well, thank you. The crime rate in Rockville is low, and we're grateful for that. But I do think in this world that's changing on many, many factors, I think we need to be proactive rather than reactive. And my goal of getting some more officers in the city is a part of an answer to that, to address any potential issues and to help us maintain the quality of life that we have now and the safety we have in the city.
Are you looking to hire more officers in Gaithersburg with all the growth you have going on?
We've actually been hiring more officers, and at this point, between the officers that are currently on staff and the ones that are in training, we have a full complement. Our department's full. But I did want to mention that we're piloting an interesting new program of body cameras in the city. At this point, what we're doing is we've purchased 5 of them, and for the next year, we're going to be developing policy as to when they need to be on, when they need to be off, the sort of circumstances and how to operate them, as well as policies on the storage of the video footage. How long do you store it? Who has access to it? So there's a lot of interesting questions, but our department, our city, sees this as a coming thing in the future, and so we're sort of trying to get out ahead of the game.
Excellent. I know you're on the Public Safety Committee, and the county's also looking at body cameras, correct?
They are, and in addition, for the Public Safety Committee, of course, Phil Andrews, who I replaced him on the County Council, but Phil was the chair of the Public Safety Committee for many years, and my chief of staff is the same as his, Lisa Mandel-Trupp. And Lisa, of course, was the person that really would staff the Public Safety Committee because of working with Phil. And we're certainly doing a lot of work. I mean, Mark Elrich is the new chair of public safety. He's doing a great job, and Tom Hucker, the other new county council member, is on the committee with me. So we're working together to make certain that everything is coordinated. And when you talk about public safety, and of course the police are an extremely important part of it, but as are all the other parts. I mean, you have fire and safety, fire and rescue that are certainly part of public safety, as well as the correction officers and everybody else. There again, I always talk about the puzzle that needs to fit together, and that puzzle needs to make certain that all of us remain safe.
Thank you. We're running out of time, and we've heard about some of the different challenges lying ahead for both of these dynamic cities. No matter what paths their leaders take, one thing that unites them is their dedication to serving their constituents. Communication is an integral part of that. That's why we're so happy that they joined us here today for this conversation. Thank you again for being here. And before we go, I should remind you that you'll find the latest community news, political news, all kinds of news on the mymcmedia.org website. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. For MyMC Media, I'm Sonia Burke. Thank you for joining us.